scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you can tell me better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right, explain that.
Oh, so well, people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately. But the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying with you're paying like if you look at the future obligations of Social Security, it far exceeds the tax revenue. Far. Have you ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then there's our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is because of the future obligations. So basically people are living way longer than expected. And there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligations. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
Yep. That is the world's richest man, South African American, Elon Musk, talking about Social Security. Now, you heard him right there. He called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. That's what he did. Now, why is he doing that? Well, the late, great George Carlin told you guys 30 years ago, they were coming for your Social Security. The wealthy elites, the rich, they were coming for it then. But they just couldn't do nothing about it. Okay, now they believe that this is the administration that will finally allow them to come after your Social Security and Medicare and all of these different entities and institutions, these programs that basically were designed to prevent poverty for our elders. A lot of people don't understand why we have Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and these types of things in the first place. A level of homelessness and destitution of our elders in the world pre-Social Security, particularly during the Great Depression, was horrific. Elderly people were starving to death during the Great Depression. And so what happened was the Social Security Administration was created through the Social Security Act of 1935. It was signed into law by, in my opinion, the greatest president this country's ever had, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, as a part of his New Deal initiatives. The act introduced a system of retirement benefits for workers 65 and older. Now, it was funded through taxes. Yes, it is funded through taxes. Now, initially, it did not cover all workers, and the benefits were modest. You know, for all due disclosure, the Southern Democrats were not going to vote for Social Security. They had, if it allowed black workers who were, domestics and field workers who were primarily black to benefit from it. And so early on especially, a lot of black people were left out of Social Security. That is a fact. Let's not sugarcoat this. But now you have millions of black people, particularly over the age of 65, who would be dead or close to it if it was not for Social Security. So the Social Security system was a response by Roosevelt and a lot of people who were capitalists in their own, way, to the sort of increased awareness of the struggle of working class people in the 1930s. You were in the middle of the Great Depression, which wiped a lot of people out, which destroyed a lot of people mentally, physically, spiritually. So there were strikes all over the country, sit-down strikes in auto plants and other industries all over here in the Midwest, including here in Gary. This forced some sort of of programs and some sort of a wave of legislation that would address this. That was the New Deal. Now, again, as we talked about a few seconds ago, Social Security started off modest, but it expanded significantly. In 1939, benefits were extended to the dependents and survivors of workers, making it a more family-based insurance program, which also had a big effect. By 1956, the disability insurance program was added, providing benefits to workers unable to continue employment due to disabilities. That is huge right there, because a lot of people have been injured in these very dangerous jobs. Further expansion came with Medicare. That was 1965 under, I think, the last decent president we had in this country, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who provided health insurance for individuals age 65 and older, and supplemental security income, SSI. That came in 1972, offering aid to low-income individuals who are elderly, blind, or disabled. Now, over the last 45 years, since the post-Reagan era, we've had nothing but sort of deregulation in our industries and sort of an privatization, austerity in the public sector, and Social Security is no different. In 1995, under one of history's greatest monsters reigns, Bill Clinton, Social Security was made an independent agency. The SSA was made an independent agency and started borrowing from the Social Security Trust Fund to offset mounting budget deficits. And so during that era, people like Bill Clinton and even more so Joe Biden said that he was going to, he wanted to cut Social Security. Even Democrats were saying that during the 90s, when they weren't mass incarcerating us and sending our jobs overseas. But that was just sort of the wave. The Republicans and the Democrats sort of got on a similar page that we're going to have to start cutting Social Security. But still, they knew that the average person depended on it and that there would be pitchforks and torches up their behinds if they went too hard at Social Security. So they've been wanting to do this for a long time. Hence, where Carlin was talking about this in the 90s, that they were coming for it. Because back then, it was pretty obvious that the powers that be were coming for it. Which leads us to today. And in the Trump administration, as a part of the DOGE cuts, Department Office of Government Efficiency, under that man we just finished hearing from, Elon Musk, they eliminated 7,000 jobs of the Social Security Administration. That is 12% of the agency staff as a part of the Trump administration's, let's just call it what it is. It's an assault. It's an assault on the government and the government's workforce. Now, they also said much of the staff reductions needed to reach the target of 50,000 cuts will come from retirement and voluntary separation incentive payments, which is basically paying people to quit, and resignation. So they are really for the people who don't want to retire and the people who aren't going to take the voluntary separation incentive payment. They want to make life so unbearable for those who work in the government. They want them to quit. They want to force you to quit. They want to make life unbearable. That is the goal. That is the goal. They said that these cuts will require reduction in force actions that could include the abolishment of organizations and positions. They are hollowing out the government. They are closing 6 of its 10 regional offices. Now, when they announced the cuts, they said the Social Security Administration has operated with regional structure consisting of 10 offices, which is no longer sustainable. But apparently, it is sustainable. 1,000 military bases around the world. Endless aid to Ukraine. Endless aid to Russia. To Israel. You say anything about cutting aid to Israel or Ukraine or closing all these military bases, these people want to kill you. They want to put you in jail. They're disappearing college students for speaking out about the endless bombs and money we're sending over there to Israel. Now, what did those regional offices do? The regional offices provided support to those Social Security Administration workers on the front lines that served the 73 million Americans that receive benefits. There's also going to be an organizational restructuring of the Social Security headquarters in Baltimore, Maryland, which the announcement called outdated and inefficient. So instead of making the headquarters efficient and end date, I guess, they're just going to cut it. This will include a reduction of the number of deputy commissioner level organizations. Now, numerous experts have issued statements saying that the job cuts will threaten the agency's operations. Like, they won't be able to function. And this will be catastrophic for the public. People are missing payments, of their Social Security. Now, mind you, before this, 89 years, it hadn't missed a single payment to a single person. But now you're seeing people losing their, who are missing payments. And since the offices are hollowed out, it's harder to get somebody on the phone from Social Security. Now, and to speak to Elon Musk's point that it is a Ponzi scheme, Ponzi schemes generally last about 200 days. 200 days. Social Security has paid every benefit owed to every eligible American for almost 90 years. 90 years almost. 90 years. And what Elon Musk and what people who love him won't tell you is that we could easily make sure that Social Security is solvent for another 75 years. All we had to do, and all the Democrats really had to do, was in 2021, when they took office and they had the House and they had the Senate and they had the presidency, if they had passed Bernie Sanders' Social Security plan, and if they had deemed it important enough to undo the filibuster, to get rid of filibuster or amend the filibuster, etc., if they would have passed Bernie Sanders' Social Security plan in 2021, Elon Musk himself would have paid $3 billion in taxes. Social Security would have been solvent for 75 years. Benefits would increase by $2,400, and 93% of Americans wouldn't have paid anything. 93% of Americans wouldn't have paid any more in taxes. It would have came solely from the Elon Musks of the world. He would have gone from paying often nothing in taxes to $3 billion in taxes. The man has $500 billion. And Social Security would have been solvent for 75 years. 75 years. Now, I want you to hear another one of these guys from the Trump administration who talked about this very recently. His name is Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick. He is one of Donald Trump's cronies, who is the Secretary of Commerce. I want you to hear what he has to say, what he thinks about Social Security. Now, just listen to this. Just show you how out of touch these people are.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't. She thinks something got messed up, and she'll get it next month.
Yeah.
A fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining.
That's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. This man is a billionaire. A billionaire who worked at Cantor Fitzgerald, the investment banking company. A billionaire. Of course, his mother-in-law isn't going to need her Social Security check. It ain't for your mother-in-law, dummy. It's for the people who are surviving and barely getting by. That's what Social Security. And then he says the people who are screaming about it are grifters. No, they're people who need to, eat and survive. Those are the people who are screaming about their Social Security. But again, this is a part of the plan. This has been a part of the plan. Hold on, callers. Not done yet. This has been part of the plan for a long time. The RAND Corporation, right-wing think tank, they found that $79 trillion in global wealth has been redistributed from the bottom 90% to the top 1% since 1975. So if you feel like you've been getting poor, all of you who were alive in 1975, you feel like things were a lot more equal then, you're right. The rich has gained $79 trillion in wealth. While everybody else is getting poor. If income inequality was the same as it was 50 years ago, just the same as it was in 1975, the median income in this country would be double what it is currently. Double! All of the gains have gone to the richest people in our society and in our world. This is what it is. And if not, and it's not just Social Security. No, they're coming for Medicaid as well. The Republican leaders in Congress have directed the committee that oversees, and this was in the New York Times, so, you can't say I got it from socialism.com or something. This is from the New York Times. Republican leaders in Congress have directed the committee that oversees Medicaid to cut $880 billion from the next budget. They say these cuts are not necessarily aimed at Medicaid, but if it hit dogs holler, essentially. This insurance program works for 72 million poor and disabled Americans. Now, like I said, the cuts aren't necessarily aimed at Medicaid, but whatever. These cuts could come from Medicare. Donald Trump has vowed not to touch Medicare, but we all know that, you can't really trust anything Donald Trump says. So most of that money, though, goes to the states. So a lot of states are going to start cutting their state budgets. And if Medicare gets cut, then so be it. If you just get a little bit less health care, if you just eat a little bit less, so be it. Who knows? Who does this protect? Poor children, pregnant women, people with disabilities, patients in nursing homes who ran out of money. You just don't know. You don't know. Let me start getting these calls. Let me start getting you callers. Hello, caller. What's up?
Good afternoon. Evening, I'm sorry.
What's up?
You did out on one thing that I was about to think about. If they really want to cut back on government spending, start with the military.
Yeah, that's what I say.
All this money that we are spending across for these wars that really don't benefit the United States.
Nope.
But we are printing money and sending money across countries for basically people that annihilate each other.
Yep.
And we sit over here, and I blame the Democratic Party on a lot of these things, because there was a lot of bills you guys could have passed, the Democratic Party could have passed. But when you got two organizations that cater to the rich, and you get a Bernie Sanders that say, hey, let's do this, oh, no, can't make it right for him. Because if we do that, everybody's going to be thinking he's going to run for president. Then what would the big corporation look at then?
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing I want to ask you real quick about the tariff.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we need to start building a lot of stuff here in the United States. I mean, big countries make these billions. Some of the tariffs, I'm not against. Make these countries pay to bring things over here. Because I was looking at 1 year, China did $300 billion in the United States. In the United States, it barely did $750 million.
Mm.
And it's like we're just giving away things. Right now, I'm in class of the new Cadillac cars, the electric cars. Do you know 85% of the parts that's on that car is made in another country?
Yep.
But then you say it's an American-made car? No, it's just assembled here. It's not made here because anything go wrong with it, you got to send out the Palestinians to get the part.
Yep.
So, any which way it goes, we looked at a tit for tat thing that has been going on so long that right now everybody is upset about these tariffs. But I'm feeling that we gave Canada too much leeway when we started allowing them to sell electricity to the United States.
Thank you for your call, bro. I got to get these other callers, but thank you. I get what you're saying, 100%. Usually you want to go slow with those tariffs. I do think that you definitely needed some tariffs. It's going to take a lot to undo the last 45 years of the post-Reagan economic order, where they financialized our economy, said we really didn't need, and this isn't just America. This is the West in general. They basically said we can use China and Vietnam as our sweatshops, and you know, we'll just find Bangladesh or whatever. We'll find whatever Southeast Asian or Latin American or African country to do our sweatshop labor, our manufacturing, and we will, you know, basically allow the rich to benefit, profit. Our money will come from financialization. We won't actually build anything in America. It's going to take a lot. So I'm not inherently anti the tariffs. There's a reason United Auto Workers supported the tariffs, at least the initial tariffs as well. It will take something drastic to start getting people to manufacture things in America, because we've let them, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, all these people, encouraged them to take their business overseas. I probably wouldn't have done it. The hatchet job that Donald Trump did would just go down and but I think Donald Trump is basically making the bet that Ronald Reagan did. Ronald Reagan got into office in 1980. There was a huge recession in 1981 and 1982. From everything I've heard, is one of the things that helped kill off this city in Northwest Indiana. I wasn't alive at that point, but I've heard a lot of people who were alive at that point say that it was really bad in 81, 82. But by 84, people had started to forget that pain. You know, things started to sort of change a little bit, and the recession ended a little bit. And so I think that's really what Donald Trump is banking on. He's saying, look, we're probably going to lose in 2026, but by 2028, people will forget. People will move on to something else. They'll either get used to the new order, or things there'll be a temporary reprieve by that point. So I'm guessing his strategy is all the pain comes up front. All the pain comes up front. We will give people the culture war stuff they want. We will, you know, deport all the people they say they want us to deport. We'll talk about, you know, political correctness and wokeness and all this other stuff. We'll tide them over with the culture war stuff, while at the same time we're making them feel all this pain it's going to be a shock and awe type situation. And then 3 or 4 years from now, they'll forget and vote for us again. I think that's a very risky gamble. But Trump at that point could just say, hey, I just, it's my time. My time is up anyway. That's the next sucker's problem. Let me get this other caller. Hello, caller. What's up?
How you doing now?
It's all good.
All right. I'm listening at you, but people don't understand. People rich got money. They wouldn't care if you eat, starve to death, or what out of life.
Nope.
They got money.
Mm-hmm.
Trump never had to worry about a dime in his life.
Nope.
And when he lost that election last time, he said to everybody, I'll be back. And when he come back, you think all the people that didn't vote for him or whatever he did, he gonna make it rough on everybody. Mm-hmm. The ones that did vote for him, good for you, for whatever you get.
All right.
Good for you. But the thing is, we all bending over, get it the same way. I've worked in that mill for 44 years. Ain't nobody giving me no Social Security. Like you say, we paid into that.
Yep. That's your money.
So you got all these people in Northwest Indiana. Well, I ain't going to say Gary. They call it Northwest Indiana here. That's what the casino call it. They don't want to call it Gary. So everybody in here, Northwest Indiana, the steel mills, look how many people worked in these mills for all these years.
Yep.
For years. Ain't nobody giving you nothing.
Nope.
But he ain't gonna rest until he mess around there and try to stop giving you Social Security.
Yep.
I guess next it'll be your pension. You work, and then when you retire, they give you a lump sum money, and they're done with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way this thing's going, man. But I hope he don't make it to no 2028. maybe some of the folks that voted for him, his own kind, will see to it. And believe you me, somebody gonna get mad. All them old so-called fake attacks on him trying to kill him, that ain't nothing. He ain't seen the real thing.
Hey,
but you take it easy, brother. I appreciate you.
It's all good. I've said I didn't think whether he won or Biden won, I don't think either one of them was going to see the end of their term. I might be wrong. Trump has proved us all wrong a long time. I don't think he's going to live to see the end of his term. I just think he's an old man. Presidents generally age terribly when they're in office. Look at Obama when he got elected, and look at Obama 8 years later. Look at George W. Bush when he got elected. Look at him 8 years later. Bill Clinton, and these were younger guys. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, and I think George W. Bush too. I think they were all in their 40s when they got in office. And by the time they got out of office, they all looked broke down. And Donald Trump is already, believe he's 79. I just don't see him holding up another until 2028. I might be wrong. Let me get this caller. Hello, caller. What's up?
Well, good evening. How's it going today?
It's all good, bro.
Well, I was just thinking. I hear everybody talking about the question of what is capitalism, but never mind that. But the idea of the market, as it were, was a dream of a fellow by the name of Justice Lewis Powell.
Oh, the Powell Memorandum.
Yes, my brother. That described us working class as mongrels, clambering the walls. And in order to suppress us, you have to alleviate the organization of the labor masses. It's similar to the Bacon Revolt. That's how the strategy goes. All the strategy, we're just a dog chasing his tail. We don't know it, but, because we keep repeating this stuff because we don't recognize where it comes from.
Right. I absolutely agree. But I actually I'm going to do a thing on the Powell Memorandum at some point in the near future. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for your call. I got to go to this other caller.
If I could, real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Quick. The idea of Keynesian economics is somehow not being capitalistic it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah, I agree. The Austrians make it seem like, the Keynes are just
they're communists.
Yeah, they're all communists and socialists. Really, it's just all basically the Keynesians are just doing basically what Roosevelt did. Roosevelt said his best accomplishment was saving capitalism. It basically just makes it less painful.
Less pain. You're a comedian, right? Who was the comedian you mentioned earlier?
George Carlin.
Yes, sir. You know what he said? America sells better than anybody else in the world.
Delusion, right? Wasn't it,
well, yeah. He used
the American Dream. The American Dream.
Yeah, he used the bull word. He says no, it's BS is what we sell better than anybody.
Exactly. Thank you for your call, bro. Hello, caller.
Hey, how you doing?
It's all good.
Good. I just wanted to speak on that Social Security.
Yes.
I started working when I was 16 years old.
Wow.
I believe the minimum wage was $2.65 at the time. And I was making $3.50 on my first job. I paid that. I asked my mother, she's a bookkeeper, right? And I say, Mom, what is this FICA thing? They taking this money out of my check all the time. She say, that's for your Social Security. And so she explained it to me. She say, you're putting money into the government. They're taking the interest to pay other people older than you. So you'll have some kind of support when you turn 65. So this dude is coming in the office, gonna take my money from me, and I ain't got no interest. You hear what I'm saying?
Right.
They're making interest off my money, paying China or Venezuela or somebody for coffee or whatever. But I'm cool because I got my monthly stipend coming in. Right. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And this cat, I'm a fraud. I'm stealing from America. Man, I've been paying for this. I'm 70 years old, dude. You hear what I'm saying?
Yes, that's
and
your
I've been
money.
Paying since 16.
That's your money.
That's my money. And you can't touch. You want to see some old folks in walkers and wheelchairs and on canes march up to Washington? Keep on messing with Social Security, bro.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna take us a while to get to the Capitol, but you hear me?
Yeah. But y'all gonna get there. Y'all gonna get there. Thank you for your call, bro.
Oh, you bet.
All right, folks, we're gonna have to go to a break. But before we go to the break, I just want to share a little bit from my favorite comedian, George Carlin, who called this 30 years ago. This is from 30 years ago when he was talking about they was coming for your Social Security and everything else. He said it, he meant it, and he rarely is wrong about his the things he called out in society. We'll be right back after these.
For this, there's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the... They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting that threw them overboard 30 years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers, people who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.